In the frozen heart of Russia's Ural Mountains lies a place of silence where snow swallows sound, and the wind whispers secrets. Locals call it Kolatsyakal, the Mountain of the Dead. On February 1st, 1959, 9 hikers set out on what should have been a routine expedition. They never returned. They were young, ambitious, and highly experienced students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was meticulous, disciplined, and known for his caution. But the mountain had other plans. The team consisted of 7 men and 2 women. Igor Dyatlov, the confident leader. Zina Kolmogorova, a bright student and Dyatlov's close friend. Rustem Slobodin, the athlete. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, the jokers of the group. Lyudmila Dubinina, strong-willed and fearless. And Semyon Zolotaryev, the outsider, mysterious addition who joined at the last moment. To earn their highest hiking certification, they had to reach a Torten mountain, a challenge that demanded discipline and teamwork. But what started as a journey of achievement would soon become a descent into mystery. They departed from Visay, the last known village, on January 27th. Spirits were high. Diaries spoke of songs and laughter. But soon, the weather turned. A brutal storm swept across the mountain, blinding their path. On February 1st, they reached the slopes of Kolatsyakal. Visibility was poor. Instead of descending into the forest for shelter, Dyatlov decided to pitch their tent on the exposed mountainside. A choice that remains one of the great questions of this story. That night, something happened. Something that sent all 9 out into -30-degree winds barefoot, half-dressed, and terrified. Days passed. The hikers were expected to send a telegram upon their return, but none came. After a week of silence, concern turned to fear. On February 20th, rescue teams were sent out. None of them were prepared for what they would find. After days of searching, a team spotted something strange, half buried in the snow. It was a tent, collapsed and torn open from the inside. Inside were the hikers' belongings: boots, coats, food, cameras, everything they needed to survive. But no people. Outside, a single line of footprints led down the slope. Bare feet, socks, 1 shoe. The tracks disappeared into the forest. From that moment, the Dyatlov Pass Incident ceased being a missing persons case and became a legend. The searchers followed the footprints leading downhill, strange, deliberate, unhurried. It wasn't a panicked stampede. Each step was measured, almost calm. Why would 9 experienced mountaineers walk calmly into certain death? The footprints stretched nearly a mile before vanishing into the forest line. And then, the searchers saw something in the snow. The remnants of a small campfire beneath a cedar tree, and 2 still bodies half buried beneath the frost. They were Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, both stripped to their underwear. Their fingers burned and their skin scraped as if they'd climbed the tree above them in desperation. Investigators found flesh embedded in the bark. It seemed they'd tried to climb for warmth, or perhaps to see something or someone approaching. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar and the tent, scattered as if crawling back toward safety. Igor Dyatlov was lying face up, frozen in the position of someone shielding his face from an unseen threat. Zina Kolmogorova was found nearby, her body curled toward the tent as if she had tried to return. Rustem Slobodin lay further uphill, a fractured skull, but no external trauma, as though something had struck him without leaving a mark. The positions of the 3 suggested they'd been fleeing from the forest. But what were they running from? Weeks passed before the final 4 were found. When the snow began to melt in May, another team ventured deeper into a ravine. There, beneath meters of ice and snow, they uncovered the most disturbing discovery of all. 4 bodies huddled together. Their injuries defied explanation. Broken ribs without bruises. Crushed chests with no external wounds. One girl, her tongue and eyes gone. Whatever had found them in that ravine did not want them to leave. May 1959. The frozen forest thawed enough for the final search. Beneath several feet of compacted snow, they struck fabric, then flesh. 4 bodies lay together in what seemed like a desperate attempt to stay warm. They were Ludmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolai Thibobrinolis, and Semyon Zolotaryev. But what investigators found on them made no sense. Semyon's ribs were shattered, his chest crushed inward as though struck by a tremendous force, but his skin showed no bruises. Ludmila's tongue and eyes were missing, her mouth frozen open as if mid-scream. Her body, along with Semyon's jacket, showed signs of faint but measurable radiation. The others had fractures consistent with an explosion, yet no blast crater was ever found. The official autopsy labeled the injuries as being of unknown compelling force. That phrase would become one of the most chilling lines in Soviet investigative history. When investigators cataloged the clothing, a strange pattern emerged. Some wore garments that belonged to others, cut apart and repurposed for warmth. But several pieces showed traces of radioactive contamination so strong it caused slight burns to investigators who handled them without gloves. Yet there were no nuclear facilities anywhere near the pass. The report was quietly sealed. The samples were never seen again. When all 9 were accounted for, the rescue team descended the mountain. The Soviet authorities closed the case within weeks. Cause of death: a compelling natural force. Families were forbidden to question the findings. Reporters were silenced. But silence never lasts forever. In the years that followed, whispers began to rise: weapons, tests, cover-ups, and strange lights in the sky. The first theory was an avalanche. Perhaps a slab of snow had broken free, forcing the group to cut their way out. But the slope was too gentle. The tent remained half-standing, and the footprints were calm, not panicked. Decades later, scientists used physics from Pixar's Frozen Snow animation to prove a small, delayed slab avalanche was possible. Yet, even they admitted it didn't explain the crushing injuries or the missing eyes. Others whispered the truth lay in military secrecy. Witnesses reported strange orange spheres floating over the mountains that very night. Theorists suggested parachute mines detonated mid-air, causing the injuries. But no debris was found, no crater. And why allow students to camp beneath classified airspace? Unless they weren't supposed to be there. Beyond the rational, stranger stories took hold. Locals from the Mansi tribe spoke of ancient curses on Kholat Syakhl, the mountain of the dead. Others pointed to the glowing orbs, suggesting UFO contact. Skeptics laughed, but couldn't explain the radiation or the strange glow on the bodies. In time, the story became a myth. The truth was no longer about what happened, but who was willing to believe.